Hello and welcome to Tales with Maddie, where stories come to life. I'm Mahadya, and today I'm very excited to bring you a beloved classic, Matilda, written by Roald Dahl. This magical tale follows the extraordinary journey of a little girl with a love for books and a sharp mind. Whether you are revisiting a favorite or discovering it for the very first time, you are in for a treat. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of Matilda. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Before we dive into the story, let me introduce you to some of the key characters you will meet along the way. Matilda, the protagonist of the story, super smart kiddo with magical powers, love books, fight against bullies, and befriends everyone. Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood, Matilda's selfish and clueless parents, more interested in money than their daughter. Miss Honey, kind and gentle teacher who believes in Matilda, turns out she might even be related to a certain scary headmistress. Miss Trunchbull, headmistress of the school, throws kids in the chokey and hates fun. Turns out she has a big secret too. The librarian, wise and friendly, introduces Matilda to a world Bruce of books. Bog Trotter. Bruce is a chubby, determined boy who eats an entire cake as punishment, turning the tables on Miss Trunchbull and becoming a school superhero. Lavender. Lavender is Matilda's bold and mischievous best friend who pranks Miss Trunchbull by putting a newt in her water jug. Amanda Trim. Amanda is a very innocent girl with pigtails who is cruelly swung and thrown by Miss Trunchbull for not following her strict rules. The themes of the novel are 1. Power of intelligence. Matilda, a gifted and intelligent girl, demonstrates the strength of intellect and the ability to overcome challenges through cleverness. 2. Resilience and courage. Matilda faces adversity for a neglectful family and a scary headmistress, Miss Trunchbull. The novel highlights the importance of resilience and courage in the face of adversity. 3. Friendship and kindness. Matilda finds solace in a friendship with Miss Honey, emphasizing the importance of genuine connection and kindness in one's life. 4. Justice and standing up for what is right. Matilda stands up against injustice, cruelty, teaching readers about the importance of fighting for what is right even in the face of authority. 5. Love of learning. The novel encourages a love for reading and learning, showcasing the positive impact that education and books can have on a person's life. The setting of Matilda plays a crucial role in shaping the story's themes and character dynamics. The novel is set in a fictional contemporary English village, and the primary locations are Matilda's home, the library, her school, Cruncham Hall Primary School, and Miss Honey's cottage. Each of these settings reflects and reinforces the different aspects of Matilda's life and challenges she faces. Let's start with chapter 1 and step into Matilda's fascinating world. Chapter 1. The Readers of the Books. Matilda Wormwood is a uniquely gifted child born into a family that fails to appreciate her exceptional intelligence. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood, are uninterested in her interests and dismissive of her talents. From a very young age, Matilda displays an extraordinary ability to read, which sets her apart from other children. By the age of 3, Matilda has already taught herself to read and write. Her parents, who are more concerned with their own lives, Mr. Wormwood with his shady car sales, and Mrs. Wormwood with her obsession with television and superficial pleasures, fail to notice or nurture Matilda's gift. Matilda's passion for reading becomes her escape from the neglect and unkindness she faces at home. Matilda frequently visits the local library, where she meets a kind and understanding librarian who recognizes her advanced reading abilities. The librarian is impressed by Matilda's choice of book and offers her encouragement. She becomes an important figure in Matilda's life, providing her with access to a wealth of knowledge and a space where Matilda's intellect and curiosities are valued. The librarian role is crucial as she introduces Matilda to a broader world of literature and ideas, which fuels Matilda's intellectual growth and resilience. This positive interaction contrasts sharply with the dismissive attitude of Matilda's parents and highlights the profound impact that kind and supportive parents can have on a children's development. Chapter 2, Mr. Wormhood, the Great Car Dealer. Mr. Wormhood is a shady car salesman who cheats his customers by altering the mileage of cars he sells. He's a show off and dismisses Matilda's love for books, seeing it as useless. Matilda's intelligence and independence clash with her father's dishonesty and ignorance, and she is often scolded for her behavior that her parents find strange. Chapter 3, The Hat and the Superglue. In this chapter, Matilda decides to get back at her father, Mr. Wormhood, who constantly insults and mistreats her. Mr. Wormhood is a dishonest car salesman who often brags about cheating his customers. He also discourages Matilda from reading, calling her stupid and tearing up one of her library books. Matilda, angry at her father's behavior, plans a clever trick. She takes his favorite hat and puts super glue inside the rim. The next morning, when Mr. Wormhood puts on the hat, it sticks to his head. He doesn't notice at first, but when he tries to take it off, it won't budge. Mr. Wormhood becomes frustrated and embarrassed as he tries to remove the hat, pulling out his hair in the process. Despite this effort, the hat stays stuck, and Mr. Wormhood has to go to work with it still on his head. Matilda, who remains unnoticed as a culprit, quietly enjoys the success of her prank. This chapter shows how Matilda uses her intelligence to stand up to her father in small but meaningful ways. Chapter 4, The Ghost. In this chapter, Matilda seeks revenge on her father, Mr. Wormhood, for tearing up one of her beloved library books. Angry and upset, she decides to play another trick on him. Matilda notices that her father is easily frightened, so she comes up with a plan to make him believe their house is haunted. She borrows her friend Fred's talking parrot, which can mimic human speech, and secretly hides it in the chimney of their living room. That evening, while the family is watching television, the parrot starts speaking, saying things like, "Hello," and "rattle my bones." The voice echoes eerily from the chimney, making it sound like a ghost is inside the house. Mr. Wormhood and his wife, Mrs. Wormhood, are terrified, thinking their home is haunted by a ghost. Matilda stays calm and pretends to be just as scared, enjoying the chaos a prank creates. Mr. Wormhood searches for the source of the sound but can't find anything. He becomes more and more frightened, and the family eventually leaves the room in a panic. Matilda tricks work perfectly, causing her father and mother to panic and worry about a ghost in their house. This chapter highlights Matilda's cleverness and her ability to outsmart her parents who continue to underestimate her. Chapter 5, Arithmetic. In this chapter, Matilda longs for her parents to be good, loving, understanding, honorable, and intelligent. Matilda's intelligence becomes more and more evident when she starts solving complex arithmetic problems in her head. Her father dismisses her ability, claiming that girls don't need to be clever. Matilda is frustrated by her father's lack of understanding and appreciation for her abilities. Chapter 6, The Platinum Blonde Man. Matilda uses her mother's hair dye to bleach her father's hair platinum blonde as another form of revenge. Mr. Wormhood is furious when he sees his new hair, and the family panics, believing something terrible has happened. Again, Matilda remains unnoticed as the culprit. Chapter 7, Miss Honey. In this chapter, Matilda begins school and meets her new class teacher, Miss Honey, who is very kind and caring. Miss Honey quickly notices that Matilda is much smarter than any other children. She is surprised by how well Matilda can read and solve difficult math problems even though she is only 5 years old. Miss Honey talks to Matilda and learns that she taught herself to read before starting school. Impressed by Matilda's ability, Miss Honey wants to help her learn even more. But she knows this might be difficult because of the strict headmistress, Miss Trunchbull. This chapter shows the start of a special bond between Matilda and Miss Honey, who becomes the first adult to really care about Matilda's education and happiness. Chapter 8, The Trunchbull. Matilda and other children learn about Miss Trunchbull, the headmistress of the school. Miss Trunchbull is very mean and scary. She doesn't like children and enjoys punishing them harshly. She is big and strong, used to be an athlete. She uses her strength to scare the students. Miss Trunchbull has a very bad temper and punishes children in a very cruel way, like locking them in a tiny, dark cupboard called a chokey or throwing them across the playground. The children are very afraid of Miss Trunchbull and know they must be very careful around her. This chapter shows how frightening Miss Trunchbull is compared to the kind Miss Honey. Miss Honey tries to talk to Miss Trunchbull about Matilda's exceptional skills. Miss Trunchbull, however, is uninterested and dismisses Matilda's abilities. Miss Honey is worried but still wants to support Matilda. Chapter 9, The Parents. Miss Honey is so impressed by Matilda that she decides to speak with her parents about how potential she is. However, Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood are dismissive and rude, refusing to acknowledge Matilda's abilities. Miss Honey leaves frustrated and concerned for Matilda's future. In chapter 10 of Matilda, we come across a character named Amanda Tripp. Amanda is a little girl who attends Cruncham Hall Primary School. She has beautiful blonde hair that her mother styles in two braids tied with ribbons, a style that Miss Trunchbull happened to detest. To punish Amanda for her hairstyle, Miss Trunchbull throws Amanda into a nearby field by her braids and tells Amanda to have her mother cut the braids off by tomorrow. Chapter 11, Bruce Bogtrotter and the Cake. Bruce Bogtrotter, a student at the school, is caught stealing a piece of Miss Trunchbull's cake. As punishment, she forces him to eat an enormous chocolate cake in front of the entire school. To everyone's surprise, Bruce managed to eat the entire cake and the students cheer for him, much to Miss Trunchbull's anger. Chapter 12, Lavender. Miss Honey tells the students that Miss Trunchbull has a custom to take over every class for one period each week. She will be taking over Miss Honey's class on Thursday afternoons. Miss Honey warns her students that they must be on their best behavior and be very clean. They should not argue, answer back, or try to be funny. She then tells them that Miss Trunchbull always asks for a jug of water and glass to be on the teacher's desk when she teaches. Lavender volunteers to get the jug and glass each Thursday. Lavender feels that she must punish Miss Trunchbull, joining Matilda in their heroic daring deeds at school and home. Lavender catches a harmless but dangerous looking newt from her garden pond and hides it in her pencil box. She takes the newt to school and does not tell anyone about it. Lavender gets a blue ceramic jug and water glass after lunch on Thursday. She puts the newt inside the jug while the classroom is empty. Then she returns to other students on the playground outside so that she does not get caught. Chapter 13, The Weekly Test. Miss Trunchbull stands in front of the class and tells the students that they are all nauseating little wats. She says that she should try to kick as many out of school as she can so she doesn't have to deal with them for the next 6 years. She examines the student's hand to see if they are clean. She tells Nigel that he is disgusting and make him stand in the corner. She asks him some spelling words and he responds correctly. Miss Trunchbull left Rupert by his hair. After he answers a multiplication problem wrong, she lifts Eric by his ears after he gets a spelling word wrong. Miss Honey is worried about the safety of the students and tries to stop Miss Trunchbull, but Miss Trunchbull ignores her. Miss Trunchbull then tells Miss Honey that she should try to be like the mean teacher in Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. Matilda says that she has read that book, but Miss Trunchbull does not believe her. When she finds out that Matilda is Mr. Wormwood's daughter, Miss Trunchbull says that he is a crook, as the car he sold her no longer works and was full of sawdust. She tells Matilda that she will be watching her closely. Chapter 14, The First Miracle. Miss Trunchbull sits behind the teacher's desk and tells the class that she thinks that small children are disgusting. Her idea of a perfect school is one that has no children in it at all. When she pours herself a glass of water, the newts slide out of the water jug and lands in the glass as well. Miss Trunchbull yells and jumps out of her chair. Lavender warns her that Newt probably bites. Miss Trunchbull quickly accuses Matilda of putting the newt in the jug. She threatens to kick Matilda out of school. Matilda says repeatedly that she did not. The two argue until Miss Trunchbull threatens to beat Matilda with a belt. Once everyone is seated, Matilda concentrates on the glass with the newt in it. She experiences a very strange feeling as if her eyes was connected to millions of invisible little arms. She uses her mind to push the glass onto Miss Trunchbull. The newt spills on Miss Trunchbull, who immediately becomes very angry. She blames Matilda, but Miss Honey tells her that nobody in the class moved. Miss Trunchbull marches out of the room and slams the door. Miss Honey lets the class go to the playground for the rest of the day. Chapter 15, The Second Miracle. Matilda does not join her classmates on the playground. She decides to tell Miss Honey what she has done. Once the two are alone, Matilda tells Miss Honey that she did not put the newt in the water jug, but she did cause the glass to tip over. Miss Honey does not understand at all. Matilda explains the powerful feeling and how she wanted the glass to fall. Miss Honey doubts her but asks if Matilda thinks that she could repeat the trick. Matilda agrees and Miss Honey sets up the empty glass on the desk. Matilda focuses on it and feels the same strange power. She wills the glass to tip over and Miss Honey is amazed. Matilda has a distant look on her face, and when Miss Honey asks her about what happened, she replies, I was flying past the stars on silver wings. Miss Honey invites Matilda to her cottage for tea. Matilda accepts and asks Miss Honey not to tell anyone about her new powers. Chapter 16, Miss Honey's Cottage. Matilda follows Miss Honey out of town to visit her cottage. As they walk, Miss Honey suggests that Matilda's power might be connected to her intelligence. But they should be careful since they don't fully understand them yet. Matilda, however, is not worried. When they arrive at the cottage, Matilda feels like it is something out of a fairy tale. She fetches water from the well and notices how tiny and simple Miss Honey's kitchen is. When Matilda asks if Miss Honey is poor, Miss Honey admits that she is. They move to the sitting room, which is very small and bare. They sit on the unturned boxes to drink tea. Matilda senses that there is a mystery about the cottage and wants to learn more about it. Miss Honey tells Matilda that no one has ever had powers like her before and that they should explore the limits of her abilities. She wonders how big or how far Matilda can move objects, and Matilda is excited to find it out. Chapter 17, Miss Honey's Story. While sitting and drinking tea, Matilda asked Miss Honey if other teachers are as poor as her. This makes Miss Honey uncomfortable and Matilda apologizes. Miss Honey decides to tell her story to Matilda even though Matilda is just a young girl. Miss Honey's mother and father died when she was very young and she was raised by her aunt. Her aunt was very mean and made Miss Honey her slave, forcing her to do all the household work including cooking. Miss Honey eventually went to the local teacher college while still caring for her aunt. Once she became a teacher, her aunt told her that she owed her money for raising her and arranged to receive Miss Honey's teacher's salary. Miss Honey was only given a single pound every week, the British equivalent of $1. Miss Honey found the small cottage and rented it for 10 pence a week to escape. Matilda protests that Miss Honey's father must have left the house to Miss Honey and not to her aunt. But Miss Honey says that aunt forged the document and is a respected figure in the community. When Matilda asks who the aunt is, Miss Honey reveals that her aunt is Miss Trunchbull. Chapter 18, The Names. Matilda is shocked that Miss Trunchbull is Miss Honey's aunt. She knows that Miss Honey must have had an abusive childhood and feels completely sorry for her. Miss Honey apologizes for telling Matilda her life story and asks if Matilda would like to practice her power. Matilda says she would rather go home. They walk to Matilda's home in silence. Before parting, they talk about Miss Honey's past again. Matilda promises not to bring it up to anyone, including Miss Honey. She then asks Miss Honey three questions. Matilda wants to know what Miss Trunchbull called Miss Honey's father, what Miss Honey's father called Miss Trunchbull, and what they called Miss Honey when they were all living together. Miss Honey answers that they were each called by their first names. Her father was Magnus, Miss Trunchbull was Agatha, and Miss Honey was Jenny. Miss Honey tells Matilda not to do anything silly. Matilda laughs, thanks her for tea, and goes to her friend door. Chapter 19, The Practice. Matilda finds that her house is empty. She decides that she needs to help Miss Honey. Matilda takes one of her father's cigars from the living room and goes to her room to practice for her own plan. She sets the cigar on her dressing table and uses her new power to push it off. She then tries to lift the cigar, but the task is more difficult. After some effort, Matilda is able to lift the cigar with a mind and hold it in the mid air for about a minute. She finds it very exhausting. She practices every day after school for a week until she is able to move the cigar in mid air. She is pleased by her progress and decides to put her plan into action. Chapter 20, The Third Miracle. Miss Honey tells her students that Miss Trunchbull will be teaching them again. Miss Honey wants them to be careful and not talk back. When Miss Trunchbull arrives, she insults the students and then starts asking them about multiplication tables. The students that she asks are too scared to answer properly, and she lifts one of them by the ankle. While she is holding the student, a piece of chalk starts writing on the chalkboard behind her. Her boy named Nigel yells out, and everyone turns to look. The chalk floating in mid-air writes her name from Magnus to Agatha, telling her to give Jenny her house back or he would come and get her. Miss Honey notices that Matilda is in deep concentration. Miss Trunchbull faints. Nigel dumps the jug of water on her face in an attempt to wake her up. The school nurse and several other teachers arrives and take Miss Trunchbull away. Miss Honey lets the students go to the playground but gives Matilda a hug and a kiss on the way out. Chapter 12, A New Home. After recovering from her fainting, Miss Trunchbull leaves the school and does not return back. Miss Tribby, the deputy headmaster, goes to her home and finds that she has moved out. Miss Honey receives a letter that contains her father's true will, leaving her the home and a savings account. Matilda is promoted to the senior class, but she still visits Miss Honey regularly. Matilda finds that she no longer can move objects with her mind. Miss Honey suggests that maybe Matilda lost her powers because she is finally challenged in school and does not have all the extra mental energy. Not long after, Matilda arrives home to find her family packing the car to go to the airport. She asks where they are going and when will they return. Her father says they are going to Spain and will never return back. Matilda runs off to Miss Honey, who explained to Miss Honey that Mr. Wormwood works with criminals selling stolen cars. Miss Honey is not surprised that he is running away. Matilda says she wants to stay with Miss Honey instead. The two run back to Matilda's home. Matilda asks her father if she can stay behind with Miss Honey. Her parents agrees. The car drives off and Matilda's brother waves at her through the back window. The end. The moral of the novel is that intelligence, kindness, and courage can empower you to overcome adversity and create a better life.